Alright guys, it's that time of the week and we have got plenty to go through in today's video. Loads of transfer rumours popping about right now. As always, if we miss anything off in today's video, get it in the comments down below and we'll discuss next time. If you're not subscribed already, make sure to hit that button, but without any further ado, let's just jump in. Starting out with some Sheffield Wednesday news, and we've had yet another U-turn on the future of Danny Rohl. Now, for the majority of this summer, it looked more than likely that he was going to be leaving Sheffield Wednesday. He was putting his job application in with pretty much every role that was going in either the Championship or the Bundesliga. He's then not been able to land any jobs, but has since returned to Sheffield Wednesday in the hopes that a takeover could go through, and in that scenario he and the club could come to some sort of agreement. Well, all the takeover talk that was discussed on the channel last week, that's now been put on ice, and Danny Rohl's long-term future at Sheffield Wednesday is now back up in the air. Players aren't said to be happy about all this, and why would they be? You know, Rohl's made it evidently clear from the get-go that, you know, he doesn't want to be at Sheffield Wednesday. Of course, there's a lot of context going into that decision, but in an ideal world, in Danny Rohl's ideal world, he'd be managing a Bundesliga club right now. I think that's fair to say. So, according to the latest reports, an exit is now being discussed for Rohl at Wednesday. He briefly returned to take training with the club. Players weren't said to be happy with that overall situation, and it looks more than likely that he'll now be leaving. Wednesday fans, what's your take on this? Get it down below. Of course, we've also had confirmation of Marti Cifuentes going in at Leicester City, and we've also got a bit more of an understanding of a point deduction that's coming their way this season as well. We knew there'd be some sort of sanctions going on Leicester, and according to Sky Sports, the most likely outcome looks like it's going to be a 9-point deduction for the Foxes coming into this season. Now, how much will that hinder their promotion charge? I think in terms of going for automatic promotion, a 9-point deduction is pretty brutal, to be honest with you. Obviously, we saw Sheffield United fighting for the top two last season. They were only working with a 2-point deduction. If what we've seen in recent years in the Championship, where it's going to take 90 plus points, probably, you know, you're looking close to 100 points in recent seasons, I just can't see Leicester doing that with a 9-point deduction. However, is the top 6 still a possibility? Absolutely, in my opinion. I think the rest of the league is so wide open that even working with a 9-point deduction, it might be a bit of a slow start to the campaign for the Foxes. In the long run, I still see them competing for a place in the top 6. Listen, there's still a long way to go in terms of transfers, ins and outs. Leicester have been fairly slow to act compared to a lot of other Championship clubs, but even with that potential 9-point deduction, I'd still expect them to be there or thereabouts. Jumping into some done deals, we have had confirmation of Charlton signing Blackpool winger Rob Apter in a package worth just over £2 million. We spoke about Apter not too long ago on the channel when Charlton were first linked with him, and they've been quite swift in getting this deal over the line really quite quickly. I think it's an exciting deal, to be honest with you. I saw a few glimpses of Apter last season in League One for Blackpool, and he's a player who gets you up and out of your seat. I think this was a sort of profile of player that Charlton were in need of, especially after losing Thierry Small. Apter's that sort of diminutive winger, naturally plays on the right-hand side and looks to cut inside onto his left foot and make things happen. He got 8 goals and 3 assists in League One last season. I've seen a few Blackpool fans saying that he's not ready for Championship football yet, and that another season in League One would have been better for his development. And I get that argument. I think had he stayed at Blackpool for another year, he would have had a massive season in League One in terms of really upping his numbers in terms of goals and assists. But long-term investment, I think this is a really good deal for Charlton. I think there's every possibility that a few years from now they sell him on for a decent profit as well. So yeah, that one for me ticks a lot of boxes. Charlton seriously making some moves in the market right now. Luka Kurumgard has signed for Watford. This one's been on the cards for quite some time. It's an interesting deal and how they've actually manoeuvred this one, Watford as well. So he signed permanently for Udinese, but has then immediately been sent out on loan to Watford, with Watford then having the obligation to buy him at the end of the season. Bit of a clever workaround there for Watford with the ownership situation. I believe that's a case of Watford getting around a few issues in terms of work permits. It may help to look better on the balance sheet as well. But he is a player to be excited about. He stands at 6'6", coming off the back of a really good season in the Danish second division last time around, where he scored 22 goals and got 7 assists. Watford really are going for it this season. The players they're being linked to at the moment and the deals they're getting over the line at the moment. Yeah, exciting time to be a Watford fan right now, it would seem. We have had confirmation of Deji Kisama signing for Rangers on a permanent basis and leaving Sheffield Wednesday. This deal has been on the cards for quite some time, taking a little bit longer to get over the line than some Rangers fans probably wanted, but yeah, that one has been confirmed. Probably the first of many players to leave Sheffield Wednesday this summer. Speaking of Sheffield Wednesday players leaving, we've obviously also had confirmation of Anthony Musaba signing for Sabzonspor in Turkey. He's gone for just a fee of 800k. For Gassama, they got about 2.2 million. So for both those players, Wednesday have only received around 3 million combined, which is way below their usual market value. Derby have completed the deal for Charlotte FC forward Patrick Agyemang, with this deal being worth around about £5.8 million. Derby have really pushed the boat out to get this deal over the line. He's been a target for quite some time, and Derby fans no doubt will be pleased that this one has got over the line. The only sort of negative around this deal is the fact that he is nursing a bit of an injury at the moment. He's having an operation on a hernia, so will miss the start of the season. May take him a bit of time in that regard to get up to speed with the Championship, but stands at 6'4", only 24 years old, scored a ton of goals while playing in the United States. It's a really exciting addition there for Derby. We've had confirmation of John Swift going in at Portsmouth. He signed a 2-year deal with Pompey, comes in as a free transfer after his contract with West Brom had expired. There's no getting away from last season by Swift's own standards. Was a really disappointing one for him at the Hawthorns, but there's no doubt still a quality player in there somewhere. I don't think anyone really ever calls into question Swift's natural ability or anything like that. He does have that killer instinct to pick a pass out in the Championship, and I think he's still got that in his locker. We'll wait and see if Pompey can get that sort of thing out of him next season. But those are some of the done deals which have gone through in recent days. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the rumours. So we'll start out with some Sheffield Wednesday news. We have had confirmation that Josh Windass is now a free agent. We knew that this was on the cards for a few Sheffield Wednesday players. He was still under contract with Wednesday until the summer of 2026, but has agreed to terminate his contract early, and so will be made available on a free, and you can't imagine that he'd be short of suitors this summer from both the Championship and abroad, you'd imagine. Scored 13 goals and got 5 assists for Wednesday last season. Still a very capable player at this level. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interest there. Along with Windass leaving on a free, we've also had confirmation of Michael Smith having his contract terminated as well. He scored 8 goals and got 4 assists last season. Be interested to see where he lands, whether he gets a Championship club or drops down to League One. He was sort of in and out of that Wednesday side last season, wasn't he? But losing both of them on the same day is a double whammy. You've lost a lot of goals right there with those two players leaving. Another Wednesday player who could be on the move this summer is Pierce Charles, one of the most highly rated young shot stoppers in the EFL. Made 8 appearances for Wednesday towards the back end of last season. Only 19 years old. He is under contract until the summer of 2027, but with Wednesday in their current state, that doesn't mean an awful lot. He's been linked with Rangers of late. Now, in last time's video, we did discuss Ipswich captain Sam Morsey and his links to Derby County. Well, that move will no longer be going through, as he's instead off to sign for a club in Kuwait. Now, we have known that a departure for Morsey has been on the cards for some time this summer. We had some rumblings about his future coming out quite a few weeks ago now. Links to clubs in the Middle East have been quite prominent for a while as well, and it seems like from Ipswich's perspective, they're going to be going in with quite a midfield overhaul this summer. So someone like Morsey will definitely go down as a modern day legend at Ipswich, but for the future, you could see why he's moving on. Blackburn Rovers are in advanced talks to sign Hull City defender Sean McLaughlin. It's interesting to see what sort of avenue Hull go down over these next few weeks and how willing they'll be to sanction some departures, with obviously the embargo that currently hangs over their head. In terms of McLaughlin, I don't think he'd be a game-changing signing for Blackburn, but a solid pickup. Can't imagine he'd cost a ridiculous sum of money. He's fairly versatile, can fill in as a left centre-half or left-back, as he did quite well for Hull last season. 28 years old as well, so theoretically in the prime years of his career. Another Hull defender who looks more than likely to be leaving this summer is Alfie Jones. He's been subject to interest from Middlesbrough amid talk of a bid of around £2 million, but Wrexham have since come in with an offer of their own, which trumps Middlesbrough's valuation of the player. Supposedly, they're coming in with a bid of around about £3 million. As of recording, Boro haven't had much luck in the market so far, have they? Wrexham themselves have taken some time to get going in this transfer window, but some of the players we're about to talk about now now. Looks like they're going to be a lot more busy over these coming days. But Alfie Jones, a top target for Wrexham right now. And speaking of Wrexham, they've also got a deal in place to sign Liberato Cacace from Empoli in Serie A. This would be a club record deal for Wrexham, with the overall package being worth up to £4 million. He's a New Zealand international, and this is the sort of player that Wrexham have been in need of. They've been in need of strengthening that left-hand side. And the 24-year-old looks like a fairly versatile player. He can play as a left-back, wing-back, he can play midfield as a centre-half. He ticks a lot of boxes for Wrexham. They've been fairly slow to get going during this window, but some of the players they're now being linked to and some of the money they're likely to be throwing around over these next few weeks, it seems like, yeah, they're really entering the party now, aren't they? United States international George Campbell is on his way to sign for West Brom for a fee of around $2.5 million, so that's the equivalent of just under £1.9 million. We've already seen West Brom strengthening their defensive options with the arrival of Nat Phillips earlier in the window. This will be another example of that. He's set to have his medical now with West Brom. May have been confirmed by the time you guys are watching this. It seems to be fairly advanced, that deal. Brighton goalkeeper Carl Rushworth has been linked with plenty of clubs right now. At one point, it seems like a deal with Rangers might have been on the cards, but as things stand, that deal isn't on at the moment, and that could allow a club like Coventry, who are also interested, to swoop in. Now, Rushworth is someone who I am a massive fan of, going back to that loan spell he had with Swansea a season or two ago. He was absolutely brilliant while out on loan there. Last season, we didn't really get to see a lot of him during his stint with Hull, did we? But he's 24 years old, very good goalkeeper there. You could see why there are a lot of interested parties right now in the 24-year-old. There's also interest from Europe as well. Portsmouth have agreed a deal for Hungarian midfielder Mark Koznovsky, who's been a target for quite some time, with that deal being worth around about £1.2 million. However, it has been speculated by a few sources that Blackburn could try and swoop in and hijack the deal. From what I can understand, though, it's still Portsmouth who are really pushing ahead with this one. We'll see if Blackburn's interest does come to anything. Watford are set to complete a permanent move for Bayern Munich winger Nestori Irankunda. This one, a really exciting deal. We spoke about him on last time's video. At that point, it was being reported that Watford were working on both a loan deal and a permanent. Well, it looks like Watford have got their man on a permanent basis, with the fee being quoted anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 million. There's also a hefty sell-on clause as part of this deal. Bayern Munich reportedly retaining a 50% sell-on clause, which will obviously impact what Watford are going to be able to sell him for in the future and how much they'll receive in future payments. But in terms of a player coming into the Championship next season, he could absolutely rip things up. He looks lightning quick from the clips I've seen. That one looks like a really exciting addition for Watford. Speaking of Watford, they had been linked with Ashley Young. A potential reunion could have been on the cards there for the 40-year-old. However, despite those recent links, it has been reported by Football League World that Young won't be returning to Vicarage Road. Reading between the lines, it seems like Watford were in sort of preliminary talks there, but maybe Young has found himself a bit more of a lucrative offer elsewhere. And speaking of Watford, they've also turned down a very lucrative offer from Burnley for forward Mamadou Doumbia. The 19-year-old only scored 2 goals in the Championship last season, albeit had fairly limited game time, just played 973 minutes in the second tier. He's clearly someone that Watford hold in high regard and see as someone who has a massive future ahead of him. Burnley seem to share that opinion. They've gone in with a £10 million offer, which has been rejected by the Championship club. Dutch defender Xavier Mbayamba is a player in demand right now from the Championship. You've got the likes of Watford and Southampton who are both interested. However, they face serious competition from some clubs abroad. You've got Rangers interested, as well as a whole host of others from around the continent as well. I think he'd be a really good option for any Championship side that could pick him up, though. He's currently playing his football in the Netherlands. He stands at 6'5". He's previously spent time in both the Chelsea and Barcelona youth academies. Let's wait and see where he ends up. Southampton fullback Charlie Taylor is currently an option under consideration by Norwich City. He's only got 1 year remaining on his deal with Southampton. Didn't really feature that much for them in the Premier League last season either, so this sort of move could be viable for Norwich. We've seen both Charlton Athletic and Blackburn Rovers having bids rejected for Hibernian defender Lewis Miller, with both bids believed to be in the region of £1 million. He's a fairly versatile defender, can play as a right back or on the right hand side of the back 3. From a Charlton perspective, you could definitely see the appeal because of that versatility. Let's wait and see if either club goes in with an improved offer over these next few days. It looks like Sheffield United are going to be the club to win the race for Aston Villa's Louis Barry. Interestingly though, it's been reported that this will be a loan deal without the option to buy instead of a permanent. Now, earlier in the window, before Hull's financial issues came up, Hull were discussing a permanent move for Barry, believed to be in the region of 3.5 million, that did include a 50% sell-on clause for Aston Villa. However, after Hull had been placed under a transfer embargo, that deal has obviously fallen through. It now looks like Barry is going to be heading out to the Championship, but on loan to Sheffield United. So, despite it not being a permanent, I still think it's a good deal for the Blades. We obviously didn't get to see a great deal of Barry in the Championship last season because he was injured for that second half of the season, but still think there's a very good player in there, and Sheffield United, by all accounts, have beaten off quite a lot of competition to get that deal as well. Wolves forward Hwang Hee-chan is continuing to be linked with the move to Birmingham. They've been admirers of the South Korean forward for quite some time, but while Birmingham have plenty of money to spend, we've seen that so far this window, financially this move may not make a ton of sense. At least that's according to the latest reports which have come out. Obviously, it has been reported, and it's obvious to say, Hwang Hee-chan is on a Premier League wage, a very decent one at that, at Wolves currently, and so within Birmingham's current financial structure, it's unclear where he'd fit in. Listen, we've seen crazier things happen, and Blue's still open to adding to their squad. Maybe a loan deal could be negotiated. We'll wait and see if we get any more movement on that in these next few weeks. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, any other bits that we missed off today, make sure to get them in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.